Buenos dias, señoras y señores. Today, Noir Alley presents a very special film airing for the first time on Turner Classic Movies. Los Tallos Amargos, known in English, if it's known at all, as The Bitter Stems, made in Argentina in 1956. It is a significant lost film in the history of international cinema, restored several years ago by my Film Noir Foundation with the cooperation of the UCLA Film and Television Archive and the Hollywood Foreign Press Association's Charitable Trust. The restoration had its American premiere in 2016 at my Noir City Film Festival in San Francisco, and I'm hoping its TCM debut will help re-earn the film the recognition it deserves. Los Tallos Amargos won the 1957 Silver Condor Award given by the Argentine Film Critics Association to the nation's best film, with director honors going to Fernando Ayala. 43 years later, American Cinematographer magazine placed the film 49th on its list of the best photographed films of all time. Well, despite these accolades, a 35mm print of the film was unavailable for decades, and as a result, the film was virtually unknown outside Argentina. It was on a trip to South America in 2010 that I first saw it, thanks to Argentina's greatest cinephile, Fernando Martín Peña. He was the man responsible for the discovery in Buenos Aires of the long-lost complete version of Fritz Lang's 1929 masterpiece, Metropolis. Fernando showed me his personal 16mm print of Los Tallos Amargos in Spanish, and even though my grasp of the plot was sketchy, I was completely enthralled. I was determined to find some way to bring this film to international audiences in a restored, subtitled version. Eventually, in late 2014, Fernando told me he discovered the film's deteriorating negative in a cellar at the country estate of one of the film's producers. An awesome find, yes. But it was also something of a nightmare to see the condition in which the films were kept. Weeds growing up through the floor, no ventilation, the film cans all rusted shut. Amazingly, we were able to salvage the original negative. Other films in the room were not so lucky. Fernando and I considered it something like providence that Los Tallos Amargos was saved before further deterioration set in. There was no soundtrack, however. That had to be digitally rebuilt from Fernando's 16mm print. All this diligent work was overseen by our colleague Scott McQueen at the UCLA Film and Television Archive. The result is the rediscovery of one of the greatest films ever made in Argentina. The movie is based on a novel by journalist Adolfo Yasca, which won the MSA Literary Prize, Argentina's most prestigious award for fiction. Screenwriter Sergio Leonardo provides an excellent adaptation of the book. The story revolves around an ambitious but frustrated newspaperman named Alfredo Gaspar, whose shortcut to success is the creation of a lucrative, if unethical, correspondence course that bilks would-be journalists. His scheme and paranoia leads to a heinous crime that haunts Gaspar in shocking and unexpected ways. Carlos Corres, who plays the tortured, insecure protagonist, was a big star in Latin America, working in various Spanish-speaking countries for esteemed directors such as Carlos Hugo Christensen, Julio Bracho, and Roberto Gavaldon. In the 1960s, he became a writer and director himself. His bunco partner is played by dancer Vasily Lambrinos. He gives an exceptional and charismatic performance, and I'll have something fascinating to share about him after the film. There are two exceptional aspects to Los Tallos Amargos, beyond the wonderfully dark twists and turns of its plot. First is the previously mentioned work of Chilean cinematographer Ricardo Junus. In the late 1930s, Junus came to America as a protege of Greg Toland, who was about to revolutionize movies with his camera work on Citizen Kane. Junus returned to South America in 1942, gravitating to the bustling film capital of Buenos Aires, where he shot more than 100 films until his retirement in 1991. Junus died in 2011, and it pains me that he never got to see the restoration of his best film. He masters the dark and sultry noir style, but also creates several expressionistic dream sequences that could have been lifted straight from early German or Russian cinema. The film also features one of the first film scores of Astor Piazzolla, who would go on to fame as the innovator of Nuevo Tango, a blend of jazz, classical, and traditional tango that would eventually make him the most renowned Argentine composer of the 20th century. It's an eclectic score in which Piazzolla daringly uses any type of musical form to convey the necessary emotion. Now, thanks to my colleague Fernando Peña and the Film Noir Foundation and its many patrons, this film has been returned to its rightful place in cinema history. Noir Alley is proud to present Los Tallos Amargos, The Bitter Stems. And there's your answer to the question, did they make noir in other countries? Yes, and in some cases, better. You'd never get an ending as dark and twisted as that in Hollywood. Los Tallos Amargos was only the second feature film directed by Fernando Ayala, who served his apprenticeship in the movie business during the reign of dictator Juan Perón. Now, regulars of Noir Alley often hear me reference the blacklisting of American artists inspired by anti-communist crusaders in the federal government. It was far worse in Argentina, where Perón, who intended to be dictator for life, dominated the film business, demanding that films extol the virtues of his fascist leadership and jailing or exiling artists that he deemed enemies. The beginning of Ayala's career coincided with the fall of the Perón regime in 1955, and his early films contained social commentary that would never have passed muster if Perón still held power. To many Argentines, the character of Alfredo Gaspar represented intrinsic insecurities in the national character, the sense that in comparison to Europe, Argentina had fallen to second world status. Gaspar's obsession with living up to the greatness of his German war hero father was a symbolic way of expressing it. In the 1960s, Ayala and his partner, Hector Olivera, formed Ares Cinematográfica, which became one of the most prominent production houses in Argentina. Ayala dedicated himself to making films for a populace routinely rocked by economic upheaval. He stopped making artistic films in favor of popular entertainment for the masses, and as a result, his reputation among Argentine cinephiles plummeted. The actresses in Los Tallos Amargos are all terrific, but I will make special mention of Aida Luz, who played Elena. The director was fortunate to get her for a relatively small role because she was a big star, and paired with Carlos Corres, it ensured his film would reach a wide audience. The native of Buenos Aires was one of the most famous actresses in South America on both stage and screen. She started making films in the 1930s, and her career lasted all the way into the 21st century, playing matriarchs on many popular telenovelas. As for Vasily Lambrinos, the ill-fated Liuris, I've got a wonderful story to share. In 2016, Los Tallos Amargos was shown at the Museum of Modern Art in Manhattan, part of a series comprising Perón-era films restored or preserved by the Film Noir Foundation. Fernando Peña even came up from Buenos Aires to present the films with me. So imagine our surprise and delight when Vasily Lambrinos himself appeared at the screening. Amazingly, after having spent his life living all over the world and becoming close friends with Audrey Hepburn, he had settled down in an apartment not 3 blocks from the museum. He was 90 years old and had never seen Los Tallos Amargos on the big screen. He told the audience he was encouraged to appear in this film because Fernando Ayala was a great director of actors, which gave him the confidence to do it, even though he never seriously considered an acting career. He was primarily a dancer and choreographer. In fact, he left Argentina before the film was released and never knew he'd won that year's Critics Award for Best Supporting Actor. Ayala accepted on his behalf. Lambrinos had only seen the film in the editing room. The MoMA screening that day was the first time he'd seen Los Tallos Amargos with an audience. And the timing was fortuitous, as he passed away the following year. I hope you enjoyed today's movie, which will soon be available in an enhanced Blu-ray edition from our partners at Flicker Alley. We'll have another of our Argentine restorations later in the year on Noir Alley. And remember that every Friday night this month, Ben Mankiewicz and I are presenting neo-noir films from the 70s and 80s. This coming Friday, we're showing Blood Simple, Night Moves, and Cutter's Way, a personal favorite of mine. Next week, Noir Alley leaves sultry South America for the American suburbs. Loretta Young and Barry Sullivan are an unhappily married couple in Cause for Alarm, a trim little nail-biter from 1951. Until then, adios, amigas and amigas. Vuelva en una semana.